Okay, so by the spring of 1945, the Germans were really kind of on the ropes. The Allies had already met at Yalta, kind of determined that they were going to split up Berlin, and also determined that the Russians were going to be the ones who mainly went into Berlin. The French, British, and the Americans didn't show up to Berlin until after the May 8th signing of Germany's surrender. So most of this town was completely destroyed by the bombs. There was kind of three kinds of bombs that they would use. The first ones were the ones that would explode on contact. The second ones were the fire bombs, and they used tons of oxygen. So people who were hiding under bridges in bunkers or whatever, when the fire bombs would come, the air needed for all of the fire got sucked up, so many people suffocated. And then the third kind of bomb that was dropped were bombs that had a delayed detonation. So 30 minutes after the bombing, the bomb would hit the ground, wait 30 minutes, explode, killing people who would come out when they thought the bombing was over. So this was done by everybody on the Allied side: Americans, British, Russians. So by April of 1945, the Russians were really on the doorstep here in Berlin, and so I'm just going to show you a little bit of what's around here and then tell you a little bit about why it's important. So this is the only bridge that goes over the Spree, the main river through Berlin here, that was not destroyed by the Nazis prior to or when the Russians arrived. So the Russians are coming from the direction that you're looking, and over on the other side is the last holdout for the Germans. You can kind of see that German flag right there is on the Reichstag. So the Reichstag is on the other side of that building. So in the Reichstag were the SS, which was the elite soldiers of Germany, and they were kind of the last holdouts. So the Russians knew they were going to have a hell of a fight on their hands once they got here, and the Germans had blown up every bridge except this last one, preventing the Russians from getting over. So there was a huge battle right on this spot. So pretending that you're a Russian, you're one of the 5,000 Russian soldiers here looking across the river at the battalion of SS soldiers, and there was quite a battle here. This bridge was rigged with bombs, and so that if the Russians began to win and make their way across, it was to be blown up. And that happened, but the detonation didn't really work very well, and only part of the bridge exploded. So, in fact, it wasn't the whole bridge, so the Russians were able to zigzag their way across the bridge. The Germans were highly outnumbered by the Russians. At one point, they had 2.5 million Russian soldiers coming into Berlin, and a few SS. Once they finally got to the Reichstag, it was quite the firefight. We don't know how many people were actually in the Reichstag. How many SS soldiers were in the Reichstag when the Russians took over, but none of them made it out. Estimates are about 700 people or so. Stalin wanted the Reichstag to be taken by the 27th of April, which was Lenin's birthday. That didn't quite happen, but they did get it first part of May. So at that point, Hitler had or was about to kill himself, and things are really on the downward slide for the Germans. So we'll take a walk across the bridge here, and then we'll look at the Reichstag.